Hey guys, it's Drummond. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you know whenever I'm posting my next video. So today's video is going to be about don'ts for a first date. So I will say that these are things that are specific to me. Hopefully they apply to a lot of you guys, but there are some people that might disagree with some of the things that I talked about in this video. So if you do, or if you think that there's some other don'ts that you want to mention, leave them in the comment section below. I love hearing from you guys. If you haven't already, go follow me on my other social medias. I have Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that fun stuff. I do different things on there and love hearing from you guys there. So the first thing that I want to talk about is negative conversations. So there have been so many different dates that I've gone on where people just want to complain about their life or their day or people in their life. And I will say this type of conversation is probably better left off the first date, just because you're trying to get to know someone, and if negative conversation is what you think you should talk about on the first date, you're pretty much giving me the impression that you're just a very negative person. And like I've said in a lot of videos, I cut negative people out super quick. So if you're talking about negative people, or if you had a really bad day, maybe you should just reschedule the date, because you don't want to go on a first date and just talk about all the things that you hate. So the second thing that I want to talk about is judgmental conversations. So I can definitely say that I am guilty of this. I've done it before in the past, and I've tried to learn from that. One situation where I've done it in the past is drag queens have freaked me out a little bit. I've had some bad experiences with them, just having people pull me up on stage. There was one that pulled me up on stage, and she was like kind of dancing with me, and I didn't realize that she was undoing my belt because I was just so nervous to be in front of so many different people on the stage. She pulled my pants down. When I went to go pull my pants back up, she started to kind of like hump me on stage, and then she just kind of like grabbed the back of my underwear and kind of pulled my butt cheeks out, which was a very traumatizing experience for me, honestly. But I'll make it very clear right now that I have nothing against drag queens. I have a lot of friends that do drag, and I definitely think that the drag queens play a huge role when it comes to LGBT rights, especially in the history of us gaining equal rights. So definitely don't think that I hate drag queens because of this video, but I will say that on one of my dates, I kind of was talking pretty negatively about that situation, and come to find out later on down the road, the person that I went on a date with actually did drag and took it very personally. So just make sure that when you're making judgment calls like that, that you're not doing it on a first date, just because you probably don't know that person too well. I know that when I do my seminars where I train people, I always tell people, be careful when you're talking to different people, because if you make really judgmental conversation, you might offend people very quickly. So first date, don't talk about people that you don't like or judging people who do certain things, because it's very possible the person you're on a date with might actually do those things. So the third thing that I want to talk about is gloating. So when it comes to a first date, I feel like it should be a mutual thing where you guys are just kind of talking about things, and maybe you want that person to ask you questions about yourself so you can answer whatever they're asking about. I know that I've talked about in other videos where dates seem to be more like interviews now, but I feel like you need to kind of make the conversation flow a little bit more. So instead of like talking about yourself, just allow that person to ask you what they want to know about you, and try to make it a fun conversation. Don't say, what do you do for a living? How much do you make? Those types of things aren't really important. I kind of learned that when it comes to dating around the DC area, people are a little bit more concerned about the job and how much people make. Honestly, it's not important on a first date. Get to know each other and just have fun. I'm the type of person that when it comes to first dates, I like to do things that are a little bit more fun, like arcades or bowling or hiking. Things like that that kind of bring in conversation that's not so much focused on jobs, money, and all that boring stuff. And so the fourth thing that I wanted to mention is marriage. So one of those things that I feel like this is something that is spoken a little bit more in the straight community, because the gay community, we are just now starting to get the rights to get married. So I haven't heard it as much on my dates. I have heard people talk about it, and I've had people ask me on a first date what I think about marriage. Honestly, when it comes to marriage for me, yes, that would be really nice to one day get married to someone. Have I ever been with someone that's really like pulled me in and like made me feel like marriage was an idea? No, I haven't really dated people, even the ones that I've dated long term. like in my head, like my head is still trying to wrap around the idea of being married to someone. Not that I'm against it, it's just marriage to me is something sacred and it's something really important, but it's not something that should be talked about on a first date. So if you're on a date with someone, keep it a little bit more flowy and easygoing. Marriage is a really heavy topic, and I feel like you might come off a little bit obsessive, or you might be coming off a little clingy if marriage is something that you're talking about right away. Now, if it's your sister's marriage and you're talking about how excited you are for that, sure, go ahead, talk about marriage. But just realize that if you start going down the route of talking about you wanting to get married and asking them what their opinion is on it, you might get the, you know what, I've got to go, and you might not get that second date. So the last thing that I want to talk about is the number one thing that I absolutely cannot stand when someone brings up on a first date or second date or third date is their past sexual experiences with other people. I honestly have never really been offended by people who talk about past relationships. So if they're like, oh yeah, me and my ex went to see this concert, I'm perfectly okay with that. I really don't mind people talking about their exes, just because that is part of who they were. That's part of their story from their past. And as long as they're not like obsessing over it, like, oh, I just want to be with this person, or oh, I really miss this, or me and my ex used to do this and it was such a great memory. Like, if you're obsessing over it and it's obvious that you're still in love with your ex, probably don't want to hear about that. But when it comes to you talking about certain sexual things that you've done with people in the past, definitely not something I want to hear about. If that's something that you've done, good for you. If you've gone to 1,000 different places and had sex with 1,000 different people, if you were a porn star in the past and you had sex with some really awesome, hot men, I don't want to hear about it. Most people, especially on the first date, I feel like maybe a little bit further in, if you were a porn star in the past, that might be something that you want to mention. And I mean, I have no issue with you saying that you were a porn star, because I mean, we all have our past. I've talked about this in other videos, don't think that I could ever do porn. I've done nude photo shoots, and that's probably as far as I could ever go with something like that. But when it comes to actually like getting down into the details of sexual things that you've done with people, just don't do it. There's no point in talking about that. Like, what are you trying to gain or add to this conversation by bringing that type of stuff up? But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you've got any comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I love hearing from you guys. And if you haven't already, go check me out on my other social medias. I'll leave the link down below. And hopefully you guys are having a good day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.